Kimetsu no Yaiba Demon Slayer Season 3 is here, titled Swordsmith Village, and we're gonna get right into the episode. 45 minutes long for this first episode in the season, and the episode starts moments after the end of Season 2, with our main group huddled up together, all unconscious from their injuries. Now, if you remember, Season 2 was really hard on our main cast, as they all fought very desperately against Daki and Gyokko, two of the upper moons that we had to deal with last season, and in this season, we do have a threat of two new upper moons, but things are gonna be a lot more difficult for Tanjiro, because in this instance, he's going to be there having to handle the events of the season without two of his biggest allies. So let's get into the episode after that intro. Hit it! Now, in Demon Slayer Season 3 Episode 1, we learn all about the injuries that the main cast ended up taking during their battles, and that's actually where we spent a decent bit of focus early on in the episode. All three of our swordsmen were wounded so bad that they ended up going into comatose states, and in fact, the only one who really walked away from that final battle in Season 2 was Uzui Tengen the Hashira, being the first Hashira at the end of one of these arcs to actually survive. Oh, sorry Rengoku, but you didn't make it, and Uzui did, so yay Uzui! After being taken back to the rest area for demon hunters, where they're being taken care of by characters like Aoi, Kanao, and the rest of the Kocho family. We found out that though his injuries were extensive, Zenitsu was actually the first one to wake up from his injuries in this battle, and he actually managed to recover so fast that he's already out on a mission before any of the other two wake up. Inosuke is the second person to wake up, and they're all actually a little confused by how he's up so quickly because of the horrible state that he was apparently in at the end of the last arc. If you remember, there was a lot of poison being used in Gyutoru's attacks and the various attacks that were lobbed at our demon hunters, and Inosuke got a very high dose of that, high enough that it would have probably killed anybody else, but because of his natural resistance to poisons that he's probably built up in the forest all of his life, that kind of saved him here and helped him resist enough for him to come out alive with the help of the Demon Slayer Corps and their healing facilities. Now, before we get to what's happening of Tanjiro, another big thing that happened in the very beginning of this episode was the Upper Moon meeting, and this was really awesome because not only did they do a lot to show us the amazingness of the Infinity Castle, which is a big location in Demon Slayer. It's a location that we are going to be visiting again and again in the series. I feel like they did a really good job of adding to like the gravitas of the Infinity Castle. And I like how we focus on Akaza as kind of the main character of this section, because in this section, or at least in the Upper Moon meeting, I feel like we get a lot of character development for Akaza, right? Or at least we learn a little more about what his relationship is with the other members of the Upper Moons. So we start the meeting off of a crazy just transition of Akaza going from place to place before the Biwa woman sends him to the main location of the meeting, and then from there we get a really amazingly animated scene of Gyokko coming out of his vase looking just so fluid, and I guess that is the point because he does kind of fit in there when he's not supposed to, making you wonder if his body itself has some sort of like fluid properties. So Gyokko shows himself, and this is Upper Moon 5 of course, and Gyokko has a kind of friendly conversation with Akaza, even though Akaza is not all that friendly, and in fact he does seem pretty standoffish when he's next to the other Upper Moon members. But then we also see Hantengu, who is the Upper Moon number 4, cowering behind in one of the strange stairways kind of in the back of the Infinity Castle, giving off the vibe of an incredibly cowardly sort of scared demon, which is understandable because if you're being summoned here to Muzan's castle and it wasn't planned for you to be there, there probably is something to be afraid of, right? Muzan is very scary, and we'll get to that in a second, but we have other Upper Moon members who also join the meeting, like Upper Moon number 2, Doma. Now, Doma, I feel like they did a lot in this episode to make me really like that character, because I know all about that character and I have every reason to hate him from reading the manga, but man, the voice acting and just kind of the jovial nature of that character in the episode really just did a lot to make me forget about that for a moment and just enjoy the fact that he's just such a rat, right? Like, he really reminds me of Pariston in Hunter x Hunter, where it's like, I do not like the actions of this character, but I like the fact that the character is just always smiling and joking around and treating everyone like, oh, I'm just trying to be better friends with everyone, while they're the ultimate snake, right? I do like that archetype of characters in anime, and just the way that repeatedly Doma will make like a little underhanded comment towards Akaza, or just the brutality of Akaza knocking Doma's mouth or the top of his head off was really awesome to me, and I like the strange dynamic between the different Moon members. Now, Upper Moon 1 shocks everybody by being there the entire time and being revealed that way, and Upper Moon 1 of course has a very serious and intense intense vibe, because unlike any of the other Upper Moons that we've seen so far, Upper Moon 1 carries himself like a swordsman, and he is very, very dangerous as the strongest among all the Upper Moons. So considering the fact that this is the first time that an Upper Moon has ever been defeated, you gotta imagine just how powerful that guy is. And by the end of the meeting, we do see his face as he interrupts Akaza, who's having a little moment with Doma, but we'll get there because we have to talk about what's going on of Kibutsuji Muzan. Muzan reveals himself as he's on the roof of the Infinity Castle working on trying to figure out what is happening with the Blue Spider Lily. And if you don't remember the Blue Spider Lily plotline in Kimetsu no Yaiba, it's something that Muzan is seeking desperately and has been the entire time that he's been alive, even during his immortality. And one of the main goals that he has for the other Upper Demon Moons, and the reason that they exist, is for them to 1, find Ubuyashiki and the Demon Slayer core and crush them, and 2, for them to find the Blue Spider Lily and return it to Muzan. So it seems like Muzan is doing like some actual scientific work. He's going over notes, he's working with vials and beakers and stuff, but eventually when this thing that he's doing doesn't work out, he gets really, really angry and really, really ticked off and starts sending dangerous, just like evil Nen, I guess, towards all the other different Upper Moon members, leaving them all shook in their boots. During this meeting, Muzan tells all the other Upper Moons, hey, sometimes I really wonder why you guys even exist at this point. If you can't get my goals accomplished, there's no reason for you to even be here. So this time after this meeting, I want everyone to work twice as desperately, work much harder, like your lives depend on it, because they do. If I don't get what I want, you guys do not need to exist. And trying to suck up to Muzan, of course, we have Gyokko, who tells Muzan that he actually has some information, so he's not useless like everyone else there. But Muzan doesn't want to hear this information. He just wants Gyokko to go act on it, instead of giving Muzan information that he hasn't even confirmed for himself. So Muzan calls an end to the meeting, sending everyone away, and he specifically tells Hantengo and Gyokko to go to the location that they apparently have information on and confirm whether or not it's true themselves. It's here where we spend a little time focusing on Upper Moon 1 as he has a conversation with Akaza about the structure and the hierarchy of the Upper Moons, telling him not to challenge it unless he actually wants to try to challenge for a rank up, where Doma and Upper Moon 1 actually agree that Akaza wouldn't be able to defeat them, so it's kind of a fruitless effort, although Akaza does respond to Upper Moon 1, telling Upper Moon 1 that he will kill him no matter what, which is a strong threat from Upper Moon 3, but again, I don't think he has the facilities for that, right? And I don't completely understand why it is that Akaza seems to have this grudge against Upper Moon 1. But as we pull away from Upper Moon 1 and the rest of the demon meeting as that comes to an end, we cut over to a similar looking man sitting receiving tea from a man who looks just like Tanjiro, albeit without the scar and with longer hair. This man holds a baby in front of this strange red-haired swordsman, and they start having a conversation about life and passing on one's name, and eventually the swordsman tells the other man who looks like Tanjiro named Sumiyoshi that all masters of their craft end up in the same place. So no matter what happens, even if his name and his skills aren't passed on, someone who is a master in the future will eventually recreate them and do the things that need to be done and carried out themselves. He also tells Sumiyoshi, who seems to be one of Tanjiro's ancestors, that he must look at him and think that he's someone amazing, but in the past, he's failed and he wasn't able to protect anything that he sought out to. So for this reason, the man who doesn't choose to share his name decides to stand up and walk away, pretty much proclaiming that he's useless and that he's nobody after all. But then we start to hear Tanjiro's voice, and Tanjiro starts to say, hey, don't think of yourself like that, and start feeling really, really bad for this mysterious swordsman. But the mystery here is, how is Tanjiro having this memory from someone else, right? Because these cannot be Tanjiro's memories, seeing as the character who looks like Tanjiro had an entirely different name, right? His name was Sumiyoshi, and this seems like an entirely different life. Now, this is going to be a mystery that is going to be unraveling over the course of this season and for the rest of Demon Slayer, but if you want, in the comment section below, let me know if you want me to do a video specifically explaining everything we know from the manga about Tanjiro's dream and this mysterious swordsman, because they are going to continue to be a mystery, I believe, for a lot of this remaining season. It's at this point, of course, where Tanjiro wakes up and everyone realizes that he's out of his coma, and then, of course, we have a scene of him talking to everyone at the Flower Estate. So he talks to Kanao, he talks to the different Shinobu sisters, he talks to Akakoshi, who we get an interesting little bit of detail on, before he gets jumped on by Inosuke, who was crawling on the roof and apparently was there all night, just kind of watching Tanjiro sleep, trying to get him to wake up. And of course, as Tanjiro wakes up asking about his friends, we do learn again that Zenitsu is on a mission, and we see him in a snow-covered area all by himself, making a lot of problems for the people that he's apparently there to save, as they all kind of have to drag him through the snow. Now in the manga, I don't think we got a lot of detail on exactly what was happening with Zenitsu's mission, so I wonder if the anime is going to flesh that out, but if not, I can also do a what if video, pretty much kind of making up a mission for Zenitsu on my own, or what I would have him doing on his own solo mission. Now here's where we start getting into the real content of this arc and exactly why it starts to take place, because Tanjiro needs a new sword after chipping his sword in the events of the last arc. Tanjiro has done a lot worse before because he's completely destroyed the sword and needed an entirely new one, but this one does need to be reforged because a chipped blade is just a blade asking to be shattered. But sadly, it seems like Tanjiro really drew the short straw when it came to like swordsmiths, because his swordsmith has a really crazy attitude, which we've been seeing ever since the early episodes of season 1. Haganazuka is a very eccentric swordsmith, and he doesn't like seeing his blades hurt. He actually looks at it as Tanjiro's failure instead of his own failure, because he feels like a proper swordsman should be able to keep a sword from breaking no matter the quality of the sword. And after seeing the complicated network and paths that it took to reach the Swordsmith Village, I did think it was really interesting to see the outlook of the actual Swordsmith Village elder on how the rest of them kind of feel like it's their fault, right, when something like that happens, and they feel like they should actually bully Haganazuka and maybe hurt him a little bit to get him to act appropriately once they find him, because Haganazuka has gone missing after the events of Tanjiro breaking his blade. Now I hope it's not just me, but I feel like there's just a really eerie vibe to the Swordsmith Village. Maybe it's just the fact that everyone's wearing masks, right? But sometimes, like, it just gets a little creepy there. You know, you have scenes where people are feeding Tanjiro a lot of food and being extremely nice to him and praising him, but there's also like a sort of eerie darkness in the air. And if I was an anime only, I definitely would be questioning, like, are they gonna betray Tanjiro? But before anyone can be any more creepy to Tanjiro, we are greeted, blessed, given the amazingness of Mitsuri, who fan services this entire episode up with her own boing boing sound effects being used a couple times in the episode when she appears. Mitsuri Kanroji is the love pillar of the Hashira, and I know her personality is very, like, it's not necessarily airheaded, but she does seem like she is single-mindedly focused on love. She is a very powerful threat against the demons, so it's good that the Demon Slayers have them on their side, even though you wouldn't exactly tell that. But her reasoning, of course, was, hey, I became a Demon Slayer and became a Hashira because I wanted to date someone stronger than me so they could protect me. And, you know, who doesn't want a really strong person to be that guy? So of course I had to become incredibly strong and become a Hashira to get to meet one of those kinds of people, but I still haven't found the right one for me. That's kind of the way that she looks at it, and it's going to be interesting to see how she works her way into the rest of this arc, because according to her, she's supposed to be leaving any moment soon due to her sword almost being finished, but we do know that she has been heavily used in the promotion for this season, so it's not likely that she's going to be going anywhere anytime soon. From here, Tanjiro was told that he should go into the hot springs to use the hot springs to heal his body, and there he does re-meet Genya, who we saw originally in season 1 during the selection exam. And as far as we know currently, Genya is the younger brother of Sanemi, the Wind Hashira, who has that crazy look on his face, but he really doesn't get along with Tanjiro every time Tanjiro tries to be around him, or, you know, just tries to be friendly with him. Tanjiro asked about Genya's brother and he kind of gets drowned in the water, and that's when Mitsuri Kanjiro later tells him that, hey, yeah, I don't think those two really get along. You probably don't want to broach that topic around him, but the weird thing about Genya is we see him ripping out his teeth, right? And if you realize, Genya definitely looks a lot different compared to how he was in the first season, and everyone has kind of grown, everyone has definitely strengthened their body and gotten stronger, but the difference in Genya is just massive, right? Like, he had a massive growth spurt that we saw last season, and in this season, he looks even buffer than before, but now what's the thing going on of him ripping out his teeth? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people can guess where that plot line is going, but it's going to be interesting to see how much of that they touch on in this season, because I don't remember how much of that was really worked into the season in the manga, right? I know that some characters just kind of pop in and then pop out of the story, so I wonder, like, I don't really remember if Genya is in this season a lot. I know that he's in the next season quite a bit, but let's see what he does in this arc if he does manage to stick around. Now, the last few things that happen in the episode are Kanroji tells Tanjiro that there's actually a secret weapon in the Swordsmith Village that Demon Slayers go there to use from time to time to become much stronger. And she tells him that, look, after everything you've experienced, after actually fighting Upper Moon demons and winning, you have a lot of experience that none of the other Hashiras actually have, and that combat experience against Upper Moons is pretty much much worth 5 to 10 years of regular training experience. So right now, after you've healed, you're stronger than you've ever been before. So go out there and find that secret weapon and truly test yourself and raise those capabilities. Now, as promising as the idea of Tanjiro making himself much stronger is, Kanroji doesn't give Tanjiro and Nezuko any hints on where this special weapon is, or even what it is necessarily, but Tanjiro goes on the look, and as he's looking, he stumbles upon a scene where Muuchiro, Tokito, and a young Swordsmith Village member are arguing in the forest over a key, because it seems like the young Miss Hashira wants something from the Swordsmith Village member who doesn't want to hand it over. And this is where Tanjiro kind of moves over a little bit to get a better view of this discussion and sees a third figure standing in the clearing who he recognizes from his dream as being the red-haired swordsman who was talking to his ancestor. But before we can see what exactly that man is doing in this forest standing next to Tokito and this Swordsmith Village member, the episode actually ends. Now, if you want me to talk about what's going on with that mysterious swordsman in the village and what exactly is going on with the secret weapon in the Swordsmith Village as well, I can do a video on that, but I'd like you to get this video to 800 likes and we can discuss exactly that and reveal the mysteries going on in Demon Slayer Season 3 already. I'm gonna go really hard on Demon Slayer this season. I didn't go crazy last season because I had other things going on in life, but the first season I did do a lot of videos of that you can go back and look for on the channel by clicking on the Demon Slayer playlists that are going to be popping up in the end screen. Soon, one of the next videos that I'm planning on doing before the next episode likely is going to be the story of the Breath of Mist, which is going to be the full story of Muuchiro Tokito's life and everything that happens to him in the manga, so you can get all of his battles and everything in one video. I've already done similar videos for Zenitsu and Tanjiro, so check those videos out, and I'll see you guys later. It's Pineapple. Peace.